What's a sign of extremely low intelligence? Inability to take new information on board and change your position on subjects. Difficulty understanding analogies. Using anecdotes in an argument, as if they prove something. Parroting the talking points without being able to discuss them, even in their most basic terms. That indicates that they have no knowledge, and no curiosity about the world. If I claim to be a wise man, it surely means that I don't know. Never, ever possessing the ability to admit that they're wrong, or don't know something, or have screwed up. No matter how obvious. Talking in circles. Saying anything educational is boring. People incapable of independent thinking and being unable to solve small problems by themselves. As a SPED teacher, I went through the top 10 answers and have to say that none of these are examples of low intelligence. Many are examples of stubbornness, pride, brainwashing, echo chambers and more. People with low levels of intelligence have a wide variety of personalities just like anyone else. Some are stubborn and ignorant. Some are compliant and love to learn. Some are angry and easily manipulated. Some have great emotional control. Some are lazy and some are hardworking. People with low intelligence take longer to process information and struggle with complex topics that have multiple components working at the same time. Many struggle against this deficit and develop strategies to overcome. For some, the obstacles are too large and some simply don't have the will or behaviors to overcome their struggles. Not being able to understand simple concepts. Had an acquaintance one time talk about how he's going to open up a law firm for his wife once she graduates law school and passes the bar. He literally made it sound so easy, and when our friend group asked him questions like how do you expect to buy an office straight out of college, where will you get clientele that is going to work with you, do you have money saved up so you can start working cases where you won't immediately be paid, his brain kind of short-circuited and he reverted to, well, we don't need an office and we can work out of our house. Plus we just need to win that one big case settlement, then we will be jump-started. Sorry, long-winded. Difficulty with nuance. All situations are black and white. Holding strong opinions, yet having no ability to explain, defend or justify them. I've worked with students with special needs for a very long time. I worked with a kid that was a junior in high school. Every day we would do the ABCs. After 2 years I worked with him. The alphabet was brand new every day. However, that kid hit 98% of his free throws on the basketball court, so you could say his kinesthetic intelligence was extremely high. Supporting a politician and making it their entire identity. As someone who tests IQ as part of his job, I find an odd trend is strongly predictive of low to borderline IQ. Being able to read fluently, but then struggling to paraphrase what was read. Never asking questions. Never having questions to ask. A lack of knowledge doesn't automatically make someone unintelligent. Lacking the thirst for knowledge is the true sign of a fool. People who respond with, because that's the way we've always done it. Playing awful music on your phone speakers while on public transport. Just look up Dunning-Kruger effect. It perfectly summarizes the behavior of people with regards to their knowledge in a particular field. People who know less are often overconfident after getting started and learning the basics, because they don't know what they don't know. On the other hand, subject matter experts are usually very careful what they say, because they know how much is there to learn and there's always a possibility that they could be wrong. Repeating slogans, instead of engaging with an argument. Trying to hide the fact that you don't understand why you hold a particular opinion by ducking away from explaining it. For example, it's not my job to educate you. Come back when you've done your research, etc. Insulting or threatening people who disagree with you, instead of putting forward your side of the argument. Being afraid or ashamed to say I don't know when they don't know. I've never met anyone intelligent who told people how smart they were. Anyone who tells you feels they need to state it, isn't. Not being able to carry thoughts to their logical conclusion. The amount of people who spout the first thought that pops into their head then digs the heels in. Ugh. Just think a little bit longer. Being tiny, having a soft skull, babbling, drooling, wearing nappies, all at once. Issues with abstract processing and black and white reasoning. Ideas like honesty and loyalty may be difficult to explain. These people also tend to be all or nothing about topics and have difficulty understanding mitigating circumstances that might make something bad acceptable. Also the lack of creativity. Creativity can be pretty abstract, which is difficult for people with low intelligence. Anyone who's interested in celebrities' influences to the point of obsession I have a hard time taking seriously. Claiming to be an alpha male. No real alpha male would ever boast like that. Constantly reposting the same things over and over on Reddit. They make a statement that's wrong. You point it out wrong and why, after which they just say but, and repeat the statement you've just disproven. Some people are just too stupid, lazy, stubborn, self-indulged to even process what you are saying. Rushing to judgment without researching an event fully, or waiting for the full account of an event to emerge. Generalizing entire groups of people and asserting they all share the same views, attributes, and moral qualities. Refusing to recognize others as fully human and thus deserving of inherent respect, and othering them based on their appearance or occupation. Even if they are proven to be incorrect, they never change their minds. Never asking questions and always gouging you the truth on a topic. Narrow-mindedness. Voting based solely on political affiliation or the party's stance on a single subject. Inability to see the bigger the picture. Not being able to change your mind based on new information. Willful ignorance. I personally can't stand when I'm talking to someone about a subject and the response is that doesn't apply to me, so I'm not interested. I'm including denial into the category of willful ignorance, as well as the refusal to receive new information on a topic. For a very specific example that doesn't totally encompass my argument, at my last job, I was having a conversation about world history with some co-workers, explaining how it all tied to a modern issue. The conversation shifted to European history, wherein a co-worker of mine said I'm not European so I don't care. Just completely ended the conversation he had been a part of. Similarly, another co-worker, as I was sharing some neat Cherokee history I'd read about, told me I'm Irish descended, so I don't care about the history of other people since it doesn't really apply to me. I also can't imagine having a question about why something troubling is the way it is and not seeking an answer. Trying to morally justify abuse, commodification, exploitation and murder of any kind of animal in a developed society. Being environmentalist and not being vegan. Being a vegetarian for the animals. We had a guy in army who had IQ of 70. He was medically freed from service, but according to his papers his mum thought it were good for him to do the conscription service. It was clear as a day that he wasn't like others. He had severe difficulties understanding even simplest instructions. For example, he couldn't figure out how to use an ice pack. It says in the package hit the package to break the internals and shake to mix. Dude cut the thing in half with scissors and came to me wondering why there was this water and blue grains coming out of the damn thing. Having a black and white view of the world. No ability to see nuance denotes stupidity. Loudness. Adults really should be able to hold a discussion or debate without the neighborhood being able to hear it. Some people seem to think the chart goes greater than the louder you get the more correct the point. From a pediatrician. The fancier the name the more stupid the parents. Constantly talking about how smart you are. It's an insecurity. The inability to apply formal logic. I recall a news article from circa 2017 about how school funding in a certain state had not been brought back to pre-2008 levels, in real terms, and how it meant the schools in a specific district were scoring much worse in every metric. Because teachers were still teaching an extra hour a day without extra pay, instead of staffing appropriately, which had been a recession-era agreement meant to temporarily keep schools in the district operating with livable compensation. Thus teachers were burnt out working longer hours and handling 200 plus students a day, instead of the circa 150 per day that they'd had in the mid-zeros or the circa 120 per day they'd had in the 80s. Tons of comments said something like, if they aren't teaching better with an extra hour of work, then they don't deserve more funding. Or, my kid's school is terrible, the teacher doesn't give enough feedback on the essays, they should not get more funding. Lots of people were saying, if an extra hour and more students doesn't increase productivity, they should all just be fired. Just whoosh. People here are apparently super confused about the difference between IQ and critical thinking skills. Not surprised considering the state of critical thinking skills in the general public. Low IQ signs would typically be developmental delays in speech, coordination, writing, poor performance and standardized testing, being outpaced by peers, not knowing how to make logical arguments or making logical fallacies or succumbing to bias are not signs of low IQ. No sense of humor. I think wit is a sign of a bright mind. Ignorance, complete lack of curiosity, and openness to new thoughts, ideas, or information. People who believe they understand more about topics than experts who spend years studying and training in the field. These people do a quick Google search for why belief is right and allow the Dunning-Kruger effect to take over.